At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. The Call of the Ice. The Antarctic wind howled like a pack of wolves, a constant companion to Lake and his team as they plowed through the deep snow. Funded by the Nathaniel Darby Pickman Foundation, an organization renowned for its support of ventures that push the boundaries of human knowledge, they embarked on this expedition with a purpose. The Foundation, with its keen interest in the unexplored and the ancient, believed that the untouched landscapes of Antarctica could hold keys to untold stories of our planet. It was this belief, coupled with the promise of making groundbreaking discoveries, that fueled their journey into the icy unknown. "Look at this." Lake's shout cut through the biting wind, his voice a beacon in the white wilderness. He was pointing at a rock formation unlike any they had encountered before. It loomed over them, a monolith of dark, veined granite that contrasted starkly with the surrounding ice. Embedded within the granite were peculiar rocks, their surfaces a lighter shade, almost ivory-like under the gray sky. These rocks bore enigmatic markings, sharp and precise triangular patterns that seemed to dance and shift in the dim Antarctic light. This could be Precambrian. Pabodie, his curiosity instantly piqued, scrambled over. His heart raced as he considered the implications. Could it be? After all these years, his thoughts raced with possibilities, with the thrill of discovery that had first drawn him to the sciences. Lake brushed away the snow, revealing more of the slate's surface. The markings were not just triangular, they were arranged in sequences, each one unique, yet following a pattern that hinted at a deliberate design. "This is it, Pabodie. This is what we've been searching for." His voice trembled, not from the cold but from the surge of excitement at their find. This moment was the culmination of years of work, of dreams that many had called folly. Yet here, in the cold embrace of Antarctica, they stood vindicated. The rest of the team gathered, their breaths creating a mist that momentarily enveloped them, adding to the ethereal quality of their discovery. Despite the layers of insulation, they could feel the bite of the Antarctic cold seeping into their bones, a constant reminder of the harshness of their environment. The air was filled with the sound of their own breathing and the distant, mournful cries of the wind. The smell of ice, clean and sharp, underscored the primordial nature of their surroundings. As they ventured further, the ground beneath them gave way, revealing a cavern. The transition from the blinding white of the surface to the dim, reflected light of the cavern was disorienting. Inside, the walls glittered with embedded fossils, their bizarre beauty casting an alien glow. Lake picked up a fragment, its edges fitting snugly in his gloved hand. "These markings, they're not random, they're biological," he mused, turning it over, feeling the weight of history in his palm. Pabodie leaned in, his breath forming clouds that mingled with the colder air of the cavern. "You mean, created by life?" His mind raced with the implications, the excitement mingling with a touch of fear at the enormity of their discovery. "Yes," Lake replied, his voice steady. "Life that existed 500 million years ago." With meticulous care, they set up their equipment, documenting each fossil. The importance of their find was not lost on them. They were answering questions that had puzzled scientists for generations. Yet with each answer, they unearthed more questions, more mysteries lying in wait. As daylight began to fade, they retreated to their makeshift camp. The process of setting up tents and starting the necessary equipment for analysis provided a semblance of normalcy in the extraordinary setting. Gathered inside, the glow of their lanterns casting shadows on the ice, they discussed their findings. The conversation flowed from the scientific implications to the philosophical, each aware of the magnitude of their discovery. "We found something incredible," Lake said, his voice imbued with a sense of responsibility. "But we must tread carefully. The world may not be ready for what lies beneath the ice." Pabodie nodded, his thoughts turning inward. The discovery was not just a scientific milestone. It was a testament to human perseverance, to the unyielding desire to understand our universe. Then let's make sure we're ready to face whatever comes our way. As they settled into the silence that followed, the expanse of ice and snow outside seemed to hold its breath. The secrets of the earth lay hidden beneath, ancient and waiting. Above them, the stars emerged, silent witnesses to the unfolding story of human curiosity and ambition. And in that moment, Lake and Pabodie knew they were on the cusp of something monumental, a journey into the heart of the ancient world that would challenge everything they knew. The Lost Mountains of Madness. Lake and Pabodie stood at the base of the towering mountains, the Lost Mountains of Madness, a name that resonated with ominous undertones. "Look at this, Pabodie." Lake's voice cut through the silence. "These formations are unlike any we've catalogued." Pabodie, visibly awestruck, could only nod. "They seem almost otherworldly," he agreed, his breath visible in the cold. Together with their team, they had discovered an underground cavern home to fossils so peculiar they seemed alien. Venturing deeper, their lanterns illuminated fossils unlike any known to science. Could these be the old ones? A team member pondered aloud, awe in his voice. Lake examined the fossils closely. These could redefine our understanding of Earth's history, he considered. The cavern began to shake, interrupting their contemplation. "We need to get out now," Lake urged as they made a hasty retreat. Safely back at camp, the team reflected on their findings. "We've uncovered something remarkable," Lake mused, the firelight in his eyes. "Yet, what consequences will our discovery bring?" Pabodie looked on thoughtfully. "The history here is etched in ice and stone, a narrative of both marvel and dread." As the night deepened, the explorers contemplated their next steps. The Lost Mountains of Madness stood as a testament to the unknown, their journey far from conclusion. The City of the Old Ones. As Professor Dyer and Danforth approached the ancient city, a sense of their insignificance in the vast stream of time washed over them. The gates, though familiar in their grandeur, held an air of mystery, as if inviting them into the heart of the Old One's domain. "Look at this, Danforth," Dyer whispered, his voice barely audible over the howling winds. "These markings, they're not random. They tell a story." "A story of what, Professor?" Danforth inquired, examining the intricate carvings. "A civilization," Dyer responded, his eyes wide with a blend of fear and intrigue. "A civilization that predates us by millions of years." With a concerted effort, they pushed the massive gate, which opened with an eerie creak, revealing the city's interior. The sight that greeted them defied explanation. Structures of bizarre geometry stretched out before them, marked with the history of a race both advanced and alien. Dyer nodded in silent agreement, his thoughts on the implications of their presence in this place. They ventured deeper, where the remnants of the Old One's culture were more pronounced. A gallery lined with sculptures hinted at the diversity of life forms, some eerily familiar, others completely foreign. Their journey brought them to a chamber, its walls adorned with symbols and patterns that spoke of a deep understanding of the cosmos. "We're not just explorers, Danforth," Dyer said with gravity. "We're witnesses to a legacy that redefines our understanding." A low rumble interrupted their contemplation, and a series of glyphs began to emit a faint glow. "What's happening, Professor?" Danforth asked, a tremor in his voice. Dyer's attention was fixed on the glyphs. "I believe we've stumbled upon a remnant of the Old One's legacy." The chamber was suddenly awash with light, revealing a central device humming with latent energy. Danforth looked to Dyer, uncertainty in his eyes. "What now, Professor?" Dyer's expression was resolute. "We must pursue knowledge, wherever it leads." With that, Dyer initiated the device, and a brilliant light enveloped them, signaling the dawn of a new epoch in their quest for understanding. Echoes of a fallen empire. The icy winds howled outside the ancient alien city as Professor Dyer and the young graduate student, Danforth, stood at the threshold of a colossal archway. The once magnificent metropolis, now a labyrinth of ruins, stretched before them, its eerie silence a stark contrast to the Antarctic desolation outside. "Look at this, Danforth," Dyer whispered, his breath visible in the cold air as he pointed to a series of intricate carvings on a monolithic pillar. Danforth, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination, nodded. "But what happened to them, Professor?" Dyer ran his fingers over the cold stone, tracing the lines of the ancient story. The two moved deeper into the city, the light from their lanterns casting long shadows among the ruins. They came upon a grand plaza, where the remnants of a once thriving market lay scattered. A sudden noise echoed through the empty streets, and both men tensed. Danforth clutched his lantern tighter. "Do you think... could any of them have survived?" Dyer shook his head. "Unlikely, but we must be cautious." As they ventured further, they stumbled upon a gallery of bas-reliefs, the images telling a tale of cosmic conflicts and environmental catastrophe. The two explorers spent hours documenting their findings, knowing that their discovery would change the world's understanding of history. Yet, as they prepared to leave the city's haunting echoes behind, they couldn't shake the feeling that some secrets were best left buried beneath the ice. Danforth turned to Dyer, a haunted look in his eyes. "Professor, should we tell the world everything we found here?" Dyer pondered for a moment before answering. "We'll share our discoveries, but some truths are too heavy for humanity to bear. We'll keep the darkest secrets to ourselves for now." With that, they made their way back to the surface, the weight of an ancient empire's echoes lingering in their minds, a silent testament to the fragility of civilizations against the relentless march of time. Into the abyss. The icy winds howled like ancient spirits as Peabody and Danforth stood at the threshold of the underground city, a place untouched by time and human memory. The city's entrance was a gaping maw in the earth, beckoning them into the abyss below. "Are you sure we should go down there?" Danforth asked, his voice barely above a whisper, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. Peabody, ever the stoic, nodded firmly. "We must find out what happened to Lake and the others. Besides, think of the discoveries waiting for us." With a shared look of determination, they descended into the depths, their lanterns casting eerie shadows on the walls. The city was a labyrinth of stone, a testament to the Old One's grandeur and their eventual fall. Sculptures of creatures, both majestic and terrifying, lined the halls, telling silent stories of a world long gone. Danforth picked up a crumpled paper, his hands trembling. "What does it say?" Peabody asked, peering over his shoulder. "It's a map," Danforth replied, his eyes wide with realization. "These sketches, they show parts of the city we haven't seen yet." They followed the map through winding corridors, each turn revealing more of the Old One's secrets. The air grew colder, and a mist seemed to rise from the ground, enveloping them in a ghostly embrace. Suddenly, Danforth stopped, his gaze fixed on a shape in the shadows. "Do you see that?" he gasped. Before them lay the body of Gedney, one of Lake's team, his features frozen in a mask of horror. The discovery was a grim reminder of the dangers that lurked in the city. As they processed the scene, they noticed intricate carvings on the walls that hinted at a deeper mystery. "We're not alone," Peabody said quietly, his eyes scanning the darkness. "Something is still here. Something alive." Their journey took a darker turn as they encountered signs of a struggle and remnants of the Old One's civilization, strange machinery, and bizarre statues. It was clear that the Old Ones had faced an unimaginable terror, a force that had driven Lake's team to madness. Then, in a chamber deep within the city, they found it, the source of the ancient terror. A colossal entity, its form a chaotic amalgamation of tentacles and eyes, lay dormant. It was a being from the stars, a cosmic horror that defied earthly understanding. "We have to get out of here," Danforth whispered, his voice cracking with fear. His earlier courage had given way to the instinct of survival. They ran, the creature's presence a palpable force at their backs. They emerged from the city's embrace, the light of the Antarctic sun blinding after the darkness below. "We can never speak of this," Habodi said, his face pale. "The world isn't ready." Danforth could only nod, his mind reeling from the horrors they had witnessed. They had gone into the abyss, and though they had returned, a part of them would forever remain in the ancient city, lost in the ice and shadows. Whispers in the ice. The icy tunnels echoed with the crunch of snow underfoot as Danforth and I pressed on, the dim light from our lanterns casting long shadows on the ancient walls. The air was thick with a strange, musty odor, and the sound of distant, eerie cries sent shivers down our spines. "Look at these sculptures," Danforth whispered, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. "They remind me of the ones we've seen before, but these tell a different story." As his assistant, I nodded, my eyes tracing the intricate carvings that told stories of a civilization long gone. "The Old Ones, they were here, Danforth. They built all this." As we ventured deeper, the warmth of an unseen geothermal vent brushed against our faces. It was a stark contrast to the biting cold we had grown accustomed to. Could this be what the legends spoke of? I, his assistant, mused aloud. A city beneath the ice, warmed by the earth itself. Danforth's voice trembled with excitement. "It's more than legend now. We're walking in it, breathing it. But where are they, the Old Ones? And what happened to Gedney?" This must be Gedney's work," Danforth said, examining the area. "But he never finished. Something must have happened." The tunnel ahead loomed like the mouth of a giant beast, and as we entered, the cries grew louder, more desperate. We found ourselves in a vast chamber, the architecture so alien, so advanced. It was as if we had stepped onto another planet. "Danforth, look," I urged, pointing to a series of murals depicting the Old Ones' domesticated creatures. "The Shoggoths. They use them for building, for everything." "But where are the Old Ones now?" Danforth asked, his voice echoing off the high ceilings. I shook my head, unable to answer. The evidence of their decline surrounded us, the abandoned riverbed, the empty sea above, the decaying art. It was a civilization that had fought against the encroaching ice, only to be lost to time. And then amidst the whispers in the ice, we heard it. A sound that was not quite a voice and not quite a cry. It was something unnamable, something that filled us with an ancient terror. "We need to leave," I urged Danforth, grabbing his arm. "Now." We ran, the urgency of our escape echoing the fear that gripped us. The once majestic city of the Old Ones was now a tomb, and we were the latest intruders, fleeing from the darkness that whispered secrets of a time when the earth was young and unknown terrors roamed the land. The unnamable. The icy winds howled through the ancient alien city as Danforth and I navigated the labyrinthine tunnels, our flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The grotesque carvings of the Old Ones loomed over us, a silent testament to a civilization long gone. "Look at this," Danforth whispered, pointing to a sculpture. "It's like nothing I've ever seen. Do you think they were trying to communicate with us?" I shook my head. "I don't know. But these creatures, they were intelligent, Danforth. They had a culture, a society." Suddenly, Danforth froze. "Do you hear that?" he asked, his voice barely above a murmur. I listened intently. A faint, rhythmic chanting filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Tekelili. Tekelili. The sound was otherworldly, sending shivers down my spine. We ran, our hearts pounding in our chests. We dashed through the tunnels, past the silent statues and the remnants of a once great empire. The horrors we had witnessed were beyond comprehension, beyond naming. The weight of our secret heavy upon us, we had seen the unnamable, and it would haunt us forever. Flight from darkness. The icy winds howled like ancient spirits as Danforth and I made our desperate escape from the accursed city. The mountains loomed in the distance, their peaks piercing the sky. A peculiar violet hue enveloped them, the result of the sun setting behind the ice, casting an otherworldly glow that seemed to mock our feeble human efforts. Keep moving, I urged Danforth, whose eyes were wide with a terror I dared not comprehend. We must reach the plain before the storm hits. Danforth nodded, his breath forming icy clouds in the air. But what of Lake? He gasped. I shook my head, the weight of our grim reality settling in. He's gone, Danforth. The Shoggoths, or whatever those things were. There's nothing we can do. We trudged through the snow, the silence of the Antarctic expanse broken only by the crunch of our boots and the distant, haunting cries that seemed to follow us. As we neared the safety of our aircraft, Danforth stopped abruptly, his gaze fixed on something beyond the horizon. Do you see it? He whispered, his voice barely audible over the wind. I followed his gaze but saw nothing except the endless ice and the darkening sky. See what, Danforth? It's calling to me, he murmured, his words trailing off into madness. I grabbed his arm, pulling him forward. There's nothing there. It's the stress, the cold. We need to get you warm and safe. Finally, we reached the plain, the engines roaring to life as we made our escape from the darkness that had claimed our friends and threatened to claim our minds. As we ascended, I glanced back at Danforth, who was now quietly sobbing, the horrors of what he'd seen etched forever into his soul. We'll never speak of this, I said firmly, though I knew the memories would haunt us both for all our days. The world isn't ready for the truth of what lies beyond. Danforth nodded, his eyes empty and distant. Yes, the world must never know. For in that ancient terror, we saw our own insignificance. And with that, we left the Antarctic behind. The secrets of the old ones buried once more beneath the ice as the plane carried us back towards the realm of humanity, leaving the whispers of the ice and the shadows of forgotten empires far behind.